Hello, everybody. Dave Schroeder here with Newrez Voices. And this week, I'm super excited to have Shane Ross with us. Shane leads our servicing group here at Newrez and Shell Point. He leads thousands of team members here and just has an awesome story. So, Shane, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, David, thank you. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah. So look, there's a lot of stuff we want to cover today, and a lot of people who are watching this for different reasons. And one of the things that people like to understand is just how leaders like yourself arrived at the point they are today. And so, could we start by having you just tell us a little bit about your journey and how you ended up leading this amazing team here at Newrez?
Sure, and it's been a journey for sure. Started in the mortgage industry back in I'm gonna age myself here, 1996. Um, Joined a mortgage company, a small mortgage company in Dallas, really to help with their marketing and public relations. And it didn't take long before I started diving into some of the operational areas of servicing and loved the operational side of servicing, and pretty much have been in mortgage servicing, since that point in time. So worked for a larger mortgage company in Dallas, GMAC RFC, and then migrated down from Dallas to Houston, joined a company called Litton Loan Servicing, which was a large servicing platform in the market at the time. Was there for a number of years running their operations. Met a lot of great people in the industry, a lot of great relationship building there, folks I still partner with and work with today. And then over the course of that journey, obviously was the housing crisis in kind of the early to mid 2000s, and very interesting time. Learned a lot. Was definitely a challenging but interesting time. After that was with a mid-sized mortgage company, more of a special servicing mortgage company that was captive to a couple of funds that were in the market. And again, just continued to build relationships in the market with folks like Bruce Williams, Michael Nuremberg, and others. And then about 4 years ago, joined the Newrez team. Was excited, met Barron for the very first time. Had knew of Barron Silverstein, and great guy. Was excited to be able to work with him and have a great name in the industry. And so that's how I got here. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
love servicing. Been doing it for almost 30 years. So.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And one thing that stands out to me, and I have young people sometimes ask me about, how should they manage their career? And I just want to kind of recap a couple of things that you said there, or that I was pulling out of it. One, I think it's amazing. I didn't know that you started in marketing. So, it's like, doesn't matter where you start, it's the opportunities that just kind of come along, and they'll kind of, it's almost, like a river. It'll take you to where it's going to go, if you're curious and hardworking. And the other thing that you brought up is just relationships along the way, and just, good people recognize good people. And if you keep your head down and hustle, good things tend to happen.
Yeah, it's true. It really is true. And I can't say enough about relationships. They've elevated me in my career. They brought a ton of knowledge that I didn't have over my career. Just kind of being able to navigate with different personalities and being able to build strong relationships can really teach you a lot, can really open doors and great opportunities for you. But again, you gotta, like you said, you gotta work hard and you gotta show your stuff every day. And but those relationships will always come around, and you want to build them for not only for yourself but for others as well. And you want to make sure that you really take care of those and cater to those.
Right. Right. Well, hey, one of the things, you and I had dinner a couple months back, and you were educating me on some of your ranching background, and your taste in beef and those kind of things. And as well, I know you get on the ATV and you've wrestled with some barbed wire over the years. So it's a different background, obviously, from being in a call center and a servicing center, those two things. So how do you bring, that kind of outdoor, hands-on, physical lifestyle into what you do every day at work? How does that all fit
Yeah,
together for you?
it's yeah. So I appreciate you asking. I've got a small cattle ranch, outside of the Houston area, and it's in some ways, David, it's not that much different than mortgage servicing in the sense that there's always challenges. There's always problems that you have to solve. Things go wrong and you got to find solutions to fix those problems, whether it be your tractor breaking down or barbed wire getting in the way. But being able to get out on the ranch, being able to do the physical work, being able to, again, continue to solve problems it's very refreshing to me. It's mind cleansing to a large extent. I can decompress from the things that are actually happening at the work level, so that Monday morning when I'm coming back into the office, really re-energized and refreshed, and can kind of put those challenges to the side and get ready to start tackling some new problems and challenges and opportunities, that are in front of us. So, um, I've been doing it for a number of years. Kind of grew up in ranching and farming with my grandparents, and so always had a passion for it. Never wanted to really let it go. And I tell everybody it's kind of my second job, and like I said, it's got a lot of similarities in the sense of you got to solve problems all the time. But it's
Yeah.
great. Now again, being down here in South Texas, it gets really hot, and so summer times, it can definitely take a toll on you. But again, it's definitely a way to refresh, restart, and kind of do that physical work, and then get back to it Monday morning.
Yeah. And the way I hear you say it, it's kind of like the root origin of rolling up your sleeves. You've got to actually go out there and dig for a fence post or whatever. And so
Yeah.
as a leader of a large organization, as you are, how does that play into, like, how do you look at rolling up your sleeves versus delegation, and carrying that forward?
Mortgage servicing is, to me, every day you got to roll up your sleeves, you got to put your hard hat on, you got to bring your lunch pail, and you got to get to work, right? And as a leader, I've got to lead by example, and I've got to be in the trenches with my team. I got to be out there, whether digging the fence posts, and cutting hay, and whatever it is. Same thing here in servicing. You gotta be able to listen to the calls, guide our team on how to handle consumers, work with our strategic counterparties and how they want to, manage their portfolio and drive performance, and, get the best out of what we can possibly offer. And so, and you can't do it without rolling up your sleeves. You can't do it without the hard work. And you got to have a passion for that hard work, David. You got to really be able to, get in the trenches and learn, the operational side of servicing and the strategic side of servicing. But that's what excites me at the end of the day.
Yeah.
There's no difference in being on the ranch. It's being out there and doing the hard work. And at the end of the day, being able to take a look at, what you were able to accomplish, what you were able to build, what you were able to do with your team, not just on your own, but with your team. It's just extremely rewarding. And every day I get up, I look forward to it.
I'm with you 100%. And I think it's one of the characteristics of Newrez and our leadership team is really, it's a full contact sport. I mean, I think every leader we have is somebody who rolls up their sleeves and gets things done, and will, get in there and write content, do whatever it takes to get things done every day.
Listen, I agree with you 100%. What I love about our team and the entire Newrez team is everybody's willing to dive in. Everybody's willing to help. Everybody's willing to work hard together, partner together. Everybody cares fiercely. You can really feel it within the organization, within the leadership team, within the staff, within the culture of Newrez. It's pretty exciting to see at the end of that.
Yeah. Look, we just so much appreciate as a team what the servicing team does for us every day. And I know there's a million projects and initiatives going on at any given time. So, and it just heads down and on to the next every day. But as you look back on the last, call it year, is there any one or two things that really stand out to you as high level accomplishments that you kind of put on the refrigerator, if you will?
Yeah, for sure. And listen, I appreciate the kind comments about the servicing team. I think they've done a fantastic job. I'll put our team up against any other servicing team in the industry. I truly believe that. Um, very fortunate to be able to work with them and partner with them, and tackle the projects and the initiatives and the strategic goals that we've actually set in front of us. The one thing I would say is, really proud of how the team has managed the growth. When I joined the organization 4 years ago, a little over 4 years ago, we were what, 1.5 million loans. Today we're 3.7, almost 3.8 million loans. A lot of growth in a very short period of time. That's been done through acquisitions. It's been done through really strong, good performance for our third party clients. It's been done by acquisitions from an MSR perspective, partnering with the Rhythm team, partnering with other counterparties in the industry, But that growth is pretty substantial. There were periods of time, we'll call it 12 to 18-month windows where we boarded over 1 million loans in that time frame. And the way that the servicing team came together to board those loans, really take care of the consumers, really take care of our counterparties, and be able to add in a lot of new team members, get them trained up, really get them to believe, what our culture stands for and care fiercely like we do. It's been a very exciting and very proud thing to be able to see our team do. Not easy by any stretch. And obviously there are some challenges as you go through it, and there's some bumpy roads, but the way the team, again, looks towards the next goal and looks to the future and what we want to build and what we can build, it's pretty excited to see them come together and be excited about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you say, I mean, so much growth and such a quality job as well. I don't know if you want to take a moment to crow a bit about some of the star ratings and whatnot that, with all that growth, to be recognized by the agencies as best of the best is just incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And listen, we can believe we're great all day long, but if the market and the industry does not believe we're good, then, we're kind of fooling ourselves. Right. So it's actually been great going through this growth period, going through some of these, challenges that we've had and opportunities that we've had and the way that we've tackled them, to get that recognition from the industry. So you got Fannie Mae continues to give us their stamp of approval with their star ratings. Freddie Mac continues to, think very highly of us. Very importantly, our third-party clients and our counterparties in the marketplace continue to really speak highly of us, and they back that up by new volume coming in the door. Fitch just gave us an upgrade in our servicer ratings and our special servicing ratings. So again, just a testament to all the hard work that the servicing team has actually done. And it's great to see the recognition in the market. It's just kind of that backup and that confidence level that the things that you are doing are being recognized and viewed as a very positive thing in the marketplace.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. And I would say, I think, as we're talking about Newrez and kind of the leadership culture, I think there's a little bit of the Belichick or the Saban edge of, you might get a smile at the end of the big win, and then it's like, okay, back to the film room.
Yeah.
What are we gonna
Yeah.
do next? So
All those things are very short lived. You got to get right back after it, right? This is
that's
where,
right.
well, what have you done for me lately, kind of thing. And that's okay. That means that
That's right.
it's never going to be boring, and there's always going to be excitement. There's always going to be something to go tackle and a goal to achieve. And so, that keeps the team really motivated. It keeps the team really challenged, and that's an exciting thing for our organization. So we shouldn't frown upon that. That's something that we should take to heart and be able to accomplish the goal, but then immediately start looking towards the next one.
That's right. So that brings me to, when we're back in the film room now, what are you looking for 2025? What's the high level things that you're excited about that the team's ready to go?
Yeah, I think two things is what I would say is one, continued growth. When you build a good machine, you want to feed it, and you want to feed it with volume. And again, if you've got a good reputation out there in the marketplace, people are confident to continue to send volume your way. With Rhythm as our parent and our strong financial conditions that we have the ability to take advantage of opportunities that are in the marketplace. So continued growth, continued scalability of our platform, take advantage of the scale that we actually have, deliver really good service, really good performance to our clients and to our consumers. And then the second thing is technology. Technology for servicing, it's been kind of stagnant for the last 2, maybe even 3 decades. It's not moved a lot. But in the environment that we're in, particularly with AI and particularly with some of the strong initiatives out there, servicing technology will not look the same 5 years from now. And that's going to create a lot of opportunity for those people and those companies that can actually be in the forefront of this. And so we're really excited about where we are from a technology standpoint, very excited about where we're going into the future, continue additions to enhancements of our base technology platform, and then being able to add on some AI components to it as well that really make us an even stronger servicer, deliver even better service to our customers, lower cost of service to make us more competitive in the marketplace. That technology initiative is something that I know will be a very strategic thing for us as we go forward for the rest of this year and well into 2026. And so, like I said, 5 years from now, servicing technology will not look the same, and we want to make sure we're leading on that.
Yeah. Awesome. going back to leadership, one of the things I think, as a young leader or a frontline leader, one of the first things that you kind of learn, and at least for myself, and I'm sure you, is just you got to set the pace and the culture, and you have to do that at any level of leadership. But when you're frontline, you can kind of do that every day, and people see that more directly. And so, you as leading thousands of people, I'm just curious, like, how do you set the pace, set the culture? You mentioned care fiercely as our one of our core values of, you know, letting everybody know how much you care and bleed that entirely through the fabric of the team.
You've got to do it at multiple levels, David, is what I would say is, we've got a lot of employees that are on the phones, every day talking to our customer base. And I like to keep a finger on the pulse of how the consumers are feeling, how we're treating our consumers. So I'll listen to a lot of calls. I'll walk the floors every day just to kind of get a sense of how those calls are going, what our employees are actually saying to customers, how they're saying it, the empathy that they have for our customers. And I'll give coaching. I love being able to pull, a line level staff into my office or sit down at their desk and go through what I think was maybe a very positive call and give them some kind comments about what a great job they actually did. And then unfortunately, not every call is great. And as long as we can give coaching around that call about maybe how that employee could do a better job, or maybe how we can educate them a little bit more to do a better job on the next call. I get a sense is something that is viewed as a positive thing and rewarding for these employees, that, someone within the organization that isn't on the phones necessarily with the customer every day still cares about that customer and the experience that customer receives. The other thing I would say is the leadership team, we need to be on the same page. We need to be able to know what's going on in the organization. We need to be communicating at a very high level. And so really push with my leadership team, high degree of communication, making sure we're not, making assumptions or guessing on the direction of the organization or the things that are important to our organization, making sure that if we're all aligned and we're on the same page, and we don't always have to agree on things, but as long as we can partner together and communicate well together, we will push this organization in the right direction. So it starts at what I would say the base, and the folks of in the organization that are actually really engaging with our consumers, making sure that they feel like they're supported from the highest level. Know that I care fiercely about our consumers and I want the best treatment of our consumers. And we're willing to, coach our employees. We're willing to give our employees tools that make them better. But then at the same time, at the highest level in the organization, throughout the leadership team, making sure that everybody understands the direction this organization's going, and the goals that are in front of us, the challenges that are in front of us, and how we're going to go accomplish those goals and work through those challenges.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful. And to have leaders who are willing to, going back to the analogy of rolling up the sleeves, but really look at it through the frontline team members' eyes. Like, what does the system look like every day? What is the screen flow? Because there's so much opportunity there, to make sure that we're properly representing team members when we're making decisions and whatnot, and getting on the phone and hearing what our customers sound like, our partners sound like, and what are the things that they're bringing up, whether it's on the phone or in a focus group or whatever. I mean, direct engagement is
Yeah.
just invaluable.
You've got to listen to your employee base. You really do. They are the ones that are doing the work. They're the ones out there on the front lines, as you said. They have a strong voice in our organization. They have a strong view of what our customers want, what our customers need, what's working, what's not working. You've got to listen to them. And at the same time, they need to be receptive to the training and feedback we want to give them. And I think they are. The other thing I've learned, David, is just a little bit of uncertainty or doubt in the organization about the direction the organization is going to go can spread like wildfire. And we don't want that to happen. Obviously, we want to make sure that our employees always know where we're going. And you got to do that in a number of different ways. One is you got to celebrate the wins. We've achieved a lot of accomplishments, a lot of great things have been done by this team, and you got to celebrate those, and you got to make sure the team is very much aware of them and making sure how proud we are of them for achieving those. And at the same time, making sure our team understands the next things we want to accomplish and the next things that we think we can accomplish, whether that be through different processes, policies, technology, opportunities that are in the marketplace that we can take advantage of, that you can't let there be any doubt about the direction the organization's going. We got to just continue to push that communication down to the staff, all the way down to the line level staff.
Yep, absolutely. Speaking of looking at it from the customer's point of view, I know last year we really started engaging with JD Power on some of the customer experience metrics and how we stack up against others. And how has that played into, I guess, your planning going forward? And are there certain things that you look at and say either are the most important for customers today or where we're evolving to? You mentioned some of the technology and whatnot. How do you see that? How do you see a great customer experience evolving with Newrez?
One thing that I try to really push to the team is consistency, accuracy, and consistency. Is probably a better way to say it. Is we've got to make sure that our interaction with our consumer base is a consistent level of communication out to them, whether that be a telephone call, whether that be a letter that we send to the consumer, what's on the billing statement. Things like escrow analysis can sometimes be confusing things to consumers, and we got to be consistent in the way that we actually communicate that information out to our consumers. And then at the same time, try to be proactive in communication. Consumers shouldn't have to guess what's going on with their mortgage. They shouldn't have to, sit at home and wonder if there's a transaction that's about to happen or a challenge or something that might be impactful to them with their mortgage. We should be proactive in communicating these things out to consumers. And so we've gotten a lot better here recently, and I think we can continue to get a lot better of being proactive in the way that we communicate to consumers. I think some of the AI tools that we've been developing will allow us to be proactive with our consumer base and trying to pick up on what might create some consternation with the consumer or concern or uneasiness that they may have about their mortgage, and then proactively communicate that out to the consumer so they get that immediate awareness and comfort level that a transaction has happened, or a payment has posted, or a tax has been paid, for example. So they don't have to go through the effort of calling in. They don't necessarily have to go in and log into their account to see what's going on. We're being proactive in how we're telling them, but being consistent with that communication is very important. The other thing I would say is, we are not perfect. Servicing is a complex process. It's tough, and we are not perfect at it. We strive to be, for sure. But where we are not, and where we see a mistake, we need to own that mistake quickly and immediately communicate out to the consumers what we've done to correct that, or how we're going to correct that mistake. Provide empathy to the consumer, make sure they understand that we do care fiercely, and that we want to make it right for that consumer. And so I think that goes a long way. Consumers can have maybe a challenging experience, but if they realize at the end of that they've got a mortgage company that really cares about them and really cares about making it right with them if there was a mistake made, that goes a long way. And I think we get a lot of, great reviews from consumers, and maybe even more positive scores in JD Powers, for example, if you can take a challenging situation and turn it into a positive situation for that consumer and build that trust with that consumer.
I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more, Shay. I mean, I think that's something we talk about on the origination side, that, you never want to have a breakdown in the process or the experience. That said, there are some golden moments when that happens. If the customer feels like you really care and you dug in to solve it for them and gave them what the solution is, I think, their relationship is even stronger in a lot of cases. So, I mean, people should
Really is.
not be discouraged when something goes wrong. Just focus on the solution and making it right.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. So again, just recapping, just a lot of positive, proactive communication. Be consistent in that communication. Own the challenges, own the mistakes, make it right for the consumer. Let the consumer know we care. Start leveraging technology. We can talk more about that and the way that we can, be more consistent in the way that we communicate to customers. But you deliver that kind of service, and consumers will stick with us, and consumers will feel like they've got a real partner in their mortgage company. You mentioned technology. It's a very interesting time for technology, and the way that servicers can really leverage that technology to deliver the right information, timely information to consumers. Some of the things that we've actually built here from an AI perspective is really designed to enhance our employee base, making sure that they have information in front of them real time that actually guides them through the conversations, the telephone calls, letters that we're actually putting out to consumers, is accurate and consistent. And some of the things we have actually rolled out to our employee base is Resi AI, where employees can actually go while they're on the phone with a customer. If they get a question that maybe is a challenging question or something that they don't recall as part of their training, they can actually go in real time and type that question in, and it'll actually give them that consistent information so they can real time communicate it out to that consumer. The other things that we need to make sure we're focused on the conversations that we're having with our consumer. And so for anybody that's managed in a call center, one of the things that employees have to do while they're on a phone with a consumer is also take notes and document the call and what happened on the call. Well, that can kind of be distracting to a certain extent because you're trying to have a conversation with a consumer, but at the same time, you're trying to document it well enough. When really we want our employees to be hyper focused on the conversation, what the customer is saying, what the customer needs, and they can deliver that without any of the distractions of the documentation. And so, some of our AI development is actually designed to listen to the call real time and create a summary of these calls and actually put action items associated with those calls. So the employee doesn't have to do it. The AI will, and they can stay focused on the conversation that they're actually having with the customer and really give them the attention and the focus that they need, particularly if it's a challenging situation.
Right. I love that. The ability for the AI to make a team member more efficient, but most importantly, help them to be fully present for the conversation and solving it versus trying to do two things. So
Yep.
that's amazing. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up AI because that nobody's closer to it than you and your team right now on the Newrez front. And you talked about some of the things it's doing, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you. Like I read an article over the weekend. Bill Gates was saying we're headed towards a 2-day work week in the next 10 years. Like how do you see this? Like how much of this is real? How big of a transformation do you see it being?
Yeah, it's going to be transformational for sure. It's a big deal. With that said, consumers also want personal attention to a large extent. And so I don't think it replaces our employee base. I think the AI needs to enhance our employee base, make them better, give them the tools, as I mentioned, real time so that they can actually deliver a better experience to the consumer. Certainly there's things that AI can do from a proactive approach of how we communicate electronically to our consumer base. But it doesn't replace the interaction that consumers want with someone within their servicing organization. And so I think we just got to continue to find ways to make our employees better with that technology. I think when we look to the future, the things that we're focused on, things like escrow management, right? Escrow is one of the things that's probably the most challenging from a servicing standpoint. The timely payment of taxes, timely payment of insurance. Consumers want to understand why we paid a larger insurance premium this year than what it was last year, and then what does that mean towards their escrow payment and what they've got to pay on a monthly basis. And so really being proactive and communicating out to consumers, using AI to try to understand where there might be some challenges with consumers that might have a difficulty to afford that higher payment, or why that payment ultimately went up and what that means from a monthly payment standpoint. I think those things are going to be critical as we go forward in the future. The other one is call guidance. When we're on a telephone call with a consumer, the AI can listen into the call and actually give prompts to our agents and tell them, hey, you might want to say this, or hey, don't forget about making this compliance statement, or hey, one thing you might want to remind the customer of is you got a tax payment that's actually coming up in the next 30 or 60 days. So it gives the agent prompts as they actually go through the conversation, so that we're not missing anything, and that customer doesn't have to call back in because they forgot something, or our agent forgot to actually inform them of something. I think the other thing is text summarization will continue to expand and be a very important thing as long conversations take place. the ability to transcribe that conversation into real messaging and real action items, tasks behind the scenes that the technology can drive off of, I think will be important. So we're not missing anything. There's no hiccups, if you will, in the way that we're processing the servicing after we have a conversation with the consumer. The one thing I would say is, we kind of take a view that consumers shouldn't have to call us. We need to be here for them when they do, but they shouldn't have to call us. If we do a good job of communicating out to consumers proactively via messaging, via post on our website, via the mobile app, via chat bots that we may have, they shouldn't ultimately have to call us. But I think AI has to become more predictive in why a customer might be interested in logging in and understanding something about the mortgage. And so I think that's where we're going to start to see a lot of momentum here with the AI.
Yeah. I love the point that you're making though about AI amplifying the human, the team members and all of this. It's like I had shared something with our team a couple weeks back that it was interesting that the trend with Gen Z and millennials is actually going the other way. They're less wanting to work with digital and more on the human side. And so it's,
Yeah.
it's one of those things, like you say, that yes, the technology is really important, but it's the most impactful when it helps a human interact with another human and give them confidence, because this is such a big part of people's lives, home ownership, and they just want someone to tell them that everything's okay and give them confidence in where it's headed.
100%. And, mortgage is one of, if not the largest investment that most of our consumers will have. And, and this is their home. They raise their families here. They build communities here. They really invest. We call it sweat equity, right? You can get equity in your home, and it's from a property value standpoint, but you get sweat equity because this is where you're raising your family. This is something that's critical to our consumers. And some of them want that personal touch. They want to be able to speak to somebody. They want to have a confidence level that someone has looked at the computer and said, listen, this is what's happened, or this is what will happen. You need to be aware of it. This is how it may impact you. If something maybe has not gone perfectly right with something in their mortgage, they want to be able to speak to somebody and be able to, get that confidence level that it's going to be okay, that we're going to help and we're going to be there to partner with them. And that, again, we can continue to drive it. We believe it. You got to care fiercely, and you can only do so much of that with the technology. You need to do it with the personal touch as well for those consumers that needed that the other day.
Awesome. So zooming back out, you talked about how the Newrez team has largely been built through acquisition. And we're seeing a lot of that in the marketplace. Most recently, Rocket acquiring Mr. Cooper in the news. So what's your kind of expert opinion on what's driving that in the market, this merger and acquisition activity, and where is it all headed for what does it mean for our industry, and what might it mean for our team members?
Yeah, I think definitely interesting news today with the Rocket Cooper acquisition merger. I think time will tell what that means to the market. Obviously, you're taking the largest originator and largest servicer in the marketplace and bringing those two together, and it's going to be definitely interesting and definitely something that the market wants to keep an eye on. I think that can become a powerful thing. We've been able to really grow our business, build scale, build low cost of service, better experiences for our consumer base through acquisitions at the end of the day, right? And so I think acquisitions are an important part of our strategy and growth and opportunities for our consumer base and for our employees. I think that the number of opportunities is diminished to a certain extent. There's not as many players in the marketplace that are looking for consolidation or an opportunity for consolidation, but there are still some out there for sure. I think, David, here's what I'd say is we're opportunistic. So we will continue to look at things in the marketplace as they come about. I think we need to make sure, though, however, it's something that's going to be accretive for us. It's going to be accretive for our consumer base, accretive for our counterparties in the marketplace as well that we partner with. And so, we'll continue to look at them, although there's not as many out there as there once was. But they've got to be something that's really beneficial to us and something that we think really drives towards our goal of both growth and consumer experience. I would say that, through a lot of these acquisitions that you've seen in the past, including, the acquisitions that we've done, we approach them as, you kind of got to leave your pride at the door. You got to go into them eyes wide open. And how do you take the best of both worlds and interject that into the future of the organization going forward? So whether that be people, processes, controls, technology, you want to be able to capture what is the best of those things through an acquisition and make sure you adopt them post acquisition and, execute on that on a go forward basis. And, I think our team's done a great job doing that. I think it's made us a much stronger, better organization. So really excited, as we kind of look to the future of what we might be able to see out there. But I think it's got to be something that we think is going to be, ultimately accretive to us.
Yeah. I love that last point you made, because I do think it's so important about taking the best of all worlds. And when I look at our team, whether it's our leadership team or our frontline teams, it is such a kaleidoscope, if you will, of the different entities that have come together, and powerful, insightful voices that all bring something really unique. And I think there's a respect and a healthy regard across the team for that diversity of thought and approaches. Hey, let's just do what's best here. Let's do what's going to help us win.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, we've been able to add and bring in and surround ourselves with a lot of great leaders and thoughtful leaders, strategic leaders, and it's a very, as you said, it's a very diverse group, and I love being able to get different insights on the direction the organization should go, or strategies that we should be trying to tackle, and goals that we want to set for ourselves into the future. We're not always aligned, and that's okay. That actually, I think, makes us a better organization, that we can kind of all come together or throw our ideas in there, really debate and really talk about and really challenge each other on what is the best direction. But what's also great is, we always come out of these discussions aligned, and we're all one team, and we're all hyper focused on the path that we've all chosen together. But it's that process of really letting everybody have a seat at the table, letting everybody have a real strong voice as to what we should be focused on. How do we measure performance for our organization, and giving people that voice, letting them know that we care about them and we want to hear from them, or we want them to bring their diversity to the table, to really open up everybody's eyes to different thoughts and ideas and creativity that's out there. And then let's all agree on the direction we're going to go, and then let's go communicate it out to the rest of the organization with a lot of energy and a lot of positivity, and then we go tackle it, we accomplish it. And I think we've been able to prove to ourselves and to the market that we've been able to do that time and time again, and we come away from it a stronger, better organization.
Yeah, 100%. So look, we've had the opportunity, and I just appreciate your insights so much about leadership and what you're doing with the team, and what we're doing here at Newrez. So let me ask you, like, who's the most influential leader in your career, and why? And if there's two, great. But I always find that fascinating to know, like, who's been an impact for you.
Yeah, no, great question. Listen, it's never just one. I take a view that, listen, I wouldn't be here in my career without strong mentors. When I talk to the young leadership team coming in, or college graduates that we hire, or other folks that join the organization, one of the things that I really stress to them is go find a mentor. And once you've really been able to benefit from that mentor, go find another one and another one, and you're going to find that they all bring different strengths, different personalities, different things that you can learn from them. Over the course of my career, I've been extremely fortunate to have great mentors around me. One of those was a gentleman by the name of Larry Litton Jr. Great hands-on leader, really taught me to, again, roll up the sleeves, put that hard hat on, and get to work and do it with the team, and be in the trenches with the team, and don't be afraid of the hard work. But a very smart guy, and could really bring some insightfulness to how to tackle problems and solve problems, and really how to take relationships that he's built, and use those to saw problems that were being pushed in front of us. Just a really, smart, creative, but very caring guy. Couldn't say enough about him, and definitely was very influential in my career. Another gentleman was Jack Navarro, who actually sat in the head of servicing seat before myself, and met Jack years ago, probably 20 plus years ago. One of the best P&L managers I've ever seen. Could really manage cost, really drive performance, but at the same time doing it by keeping a very close eye on the cost of the business. Never sacrificing performance for cost, but making sure that you're always managing the financial condition of the organization. And he really instilled that in me. And then at the same time, relationships. He was great at being able to build relationships. Finding ways to give back to those relationships, not just be a taker, but be a giver in those relationships. And taught me that challenges are not something to be afraid of. Challenges are something to embrace at the end of the day. And because you're going to find a great experience out of it, you're going to learn a lot out of it, and then you're going to be able to take that experience and what you learned into the next challenge and the next challenge. So it was almost oddly get excited about some of the challenges and problems that we were having to work through because of the things that you could take away from it. So great leader overall, great leader of people overall. So was really fortunate to be able to work with Jack. And listen, here's what I'd say is Baron Silverstein. Baron's awesome. Like I said, I didn't know Baron before being within the Newrez organization, starting 4 years ago. And, Baron's one of these guys that can really lead a team into the charge, into the battle, and keep them motivated and keep them focused. Really be able to bring an insightful view of how the market perceives the things that we're doing, really be a champion of brand and consumer experience and culture. So it's that, real passion that Baron's been able to bring to it, but also at the sense of a transaction and how the market may perceive us. It's been pretty influential for me. So, I got to definitely, call out Baron as well.
That's awesome. Those are three good ones. That's a good Mount Rushmore there.
It is.
So like, just, if you're putting yourself back in the, I guess, younger in your career, earlier in your career, and you're looking for that kind of mentorship. And look, I mean, you mentioned Baron, and that's late in your career.
Yeah.
My guess is that you didn't go to Baron and say, hey, can you mentor me? But it's more, I think, and I'm just kind of getting for what you would give advice to younger folks that maybe you're looking for a mentor, or older folks that, I guess I'll lead by saying my experience would be that you just ask people that you have an admiration for, or you want to learn more about it, ask them questions or volunteer to do things with them on their team, and just take on additional responsibility without being asked. I mean, I've always found that's the best way that my mentors have been developed, because if I've made the first move, they tend to want to invest in me as well, and it becomes super symbiotic. And actually, in the end, I probably get a lot more out of their mentorship. But how do you view that?
Yeah, listen, first and foremost is you ask questions, right? Find people that you believe are smart, creative, strategic, relationship builders, and just start peppering them with questions. And you got to be careful not to overdo it, but you'll find that people enjoy answering those questions. They enjoy giving their insight into the business and how to think about things. And so, my advice to folks: go out there and find someone that you think is, really thoughtful, engaging, and patient, and be, someone that you think will actually take the time to be able to visit with you. And then, just start asking them questions, having some open dialogue with them, share your opinions as well. And then if you really start to create a bond with that individual, it's okay to ask for a mentorship. I've had a number of employees, that have asked if I'd be their mentor, and the answer is always yes. I love it. I think it's important for people to have as you go through your career. I wasn't afraid to, ask Jack Navarro to be a mentor to me. But make sure it's somebody that you can really bond with, and somebody that, can really drive you in the right direction. And then here's what I would say is, never stop having a mentor. I mean, I'm, late in my career, and I always need mentorship. There's things I don't know. There's things I haven't learned as part of my career. I'm a servicing guy. I've never originated a loan in my life. And so, having to learn the origination side of the business, because we need to be able to partner to recapture our consumers and keep those consumers in our boat and, offer those refi opportunities. I've had to learn that through folks. And it's been, something that's been very exciting for me as late in my career is be able to, learn different aspects of the mortgage industry. So don't ever stop asking, don't ever stop looking for mentorship. And you can have more than one. You can have more than one over the course of your career. I certainly did. But just look for those individuals that you think you can have a bond with, that you can kind of challenge back and forth. But someone that'll give you some real insightfulness into how to think differently about things and how to stay positive, when you're faced with certain challenges or problems, how to keep that positive view, always making sure you're learning as you go through your career. But Dave, like you said, I think it starts with ask questions, don't stop and don't be afraid to ask for mentorship if you think it's the right person.
That's right. Yeah. And I as you're saying all that, and just kind of wrapping up, I think one of the things, and I hear you kind of saying the same thing, is that what I love about this industry is that there's never a lack of new things to learn. I wake up every day and I know I'm going to learn at least 5 new things just going through the day. Much less if I'm proactively kind of seeking an answer on something. And so it keeps it so fresh and it's always evolving. And it's so important to people, the home ownership that we've talked about, like there's a real purpose to it. And so I just couldn't be more thankful to be a part of it and to work with folks like yourself.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, David, and same to you. It's an exciting time for us, and like you said, there's something new every single day, and that's great. That's the stuff we should get excited about, not shy away from, and having great leaders in our organization, people that are personable, people that care. That's what's important. We come to work every day. We want to make sure we're doing it with people that we enjoy being around, and have the same goals and have the same passion that we do. And I think we have that here in Newrez. I really do. Doesn't mean we're not going to, have our differences and discussions, and we may not always agree, but as long as we always support each other, I think we're going to always end up in a good spot. So really excited about our organization and who we've got in here.
I agree. I agree. So Shane, a little birdie told me that when you're driving into work every day, you're doing breathing exercises and not just kind of deep breaths and exhaling intentionally, but like I literally heard that you can hold your breath for 4 minutes. So you can speak to that. But then maybe just tell us, all right, if that's the first part of your day, once you get in the office, how do you prioritize what you're going to do for the day and decide what matters most?
So I appreciate the question. Yeah, and it's not 4 minutes. I think the longest I've been able to hold it is about 3:40. Now what's scary is I actually do this on the drive into the office. So I live about an hour and 20 minutes out. So I drive an hour and 20, into the office every morning. And I read this study years ago that, divers, free divers, they do these breathing treatments, where they take in these massive breaths and then they hold their breath, for as long as they can. And then they do it again and again. And some of these divers are getting to like 10 minutes, and they did these studies on longevity of their lifespan. And these divers were living like 10 to 20 years longer than, folks that were living a similar lifestyle without doing the breathing. And so decided to start doing it. Listen, I got an hour and 20-minute drive. I might as well do something during that drive. So I started doing the breathing treatments. It took me maybe a little over a year to get to that, we'll call it 3.5 minutes of being able to hold my breath. But it really refreshes the mind, gets you thinking in the morning. And then the end of your question, I get in to the office and, I've had a chance to think about, because I'm trying to distract my mind while I'm holding my breath so I can hold it for longer, how I'm going to prioritize my day, the things that I've got to tackle, the things that are going to be important. First and foremost, what do I need to communicate to my team to really hit the ground running for the day and for the week? The things I want them to focus on, the things I want them to think about, the things that I think are going to be important to the market and to our industry and to our business. Then I start thinking about strategically, what are the things that I need to do to be in front of our counterparties, our third-party clients, and so forth, to make sure they have a view and transparency into the things that we're working on this week. And then try to, thirdly start to strategize around how I can communicate down to the staff or be involved at the staff level, so they know that I'm in there, they know that I care, they know that I'm interested in what they're doing, and make sure that they understand that that's important to me. So those are kind of the things that I, do during that drive, and it's how I am able to hit the ground running first thing in the morning on Monday, and then first thing every morning throughout the week.
Right. That's awesome. So look, I mean, I think every company wants to believe they're different, and I think everybody is by either intention or not. But I know that you believe, as I do, that Newrez is really in a very special place and doing some really amazing things that are revealed today and into the future. But maybe you could take a moment and talk about, from your perspective, how do you think Newrez stands out right now? How are we different than other places, and what are the kind of people that might be attracted to us?
Yeah, I think I think one is, we talked about it a little bit, is, we're a very diverse team. We've come together through acquisitions and growth. We've got multiple sites around the country, so we're not all in one geographical location. Um, we're very diverse, and I think that makes us very special. It's one of our key strengths. And I think that the way that we leverage that and the way that we use that as a competitive advantage, I think is something that's special, and other companies just don't have. I would also say that, the things that are special about us is, this care fiercely mentality that we have. And it's not just a statement, David. It is a belief. It is a strong belief, and it's something that I can see and hear and feel throughout my organization and throughout the broader Newrez organization. It's something special, and I think that's something that a lot of organizations are missing. They may say they do things, but you got to really feel it, and you got to take it to heart every single day when you're dealing with, almost 4 million consumers. I think the way that we've been able to really drive it into our organization, hold people accountable to it, I think it's something that's very, very special. And then, again, I'll talk about technology. We're one of the very few mortgage companies in the industry that has its own proprietary technology, and we've been able to use that as a strong competitive advantage. Allows us to be flexible, nimble. I think it's something that, we want to, as we look to our technology future, whatever path that may go down, we want to make sure we retain that flexibility and that nimbleness, because that's something that our clients need. It's something that our consumers need. It's something that we need to be successful. The market's always shifting and always changing. And so I think that'll be something that I think it's special today. And I think it'll be something that's special as we go forward.
Yeah, I think, and what's critical about that to me, and that we talk about on our team, of having our own tech stack and care fiercely, is just ownership. Like, there is a new res way, and there's a new res accountability level that we all have to care fiercely, like you say, that ties it together. And I think, that's what I'm excited to build. And when we talk to new team members or people who want to be a part of the team, you kind of look for people who have a heart for it and have a passion to serve others. So
That's right. That's right.
yeah. And when you think about that, just talking about recruiting and who would join us, servicing, I know, is a really diverse, you got people on the phones, you have people that are, digging in the details on paperwork and documentation, so much documentation and whatnot. But are there certain characteristics or certain skill sets that, if somebody's watching this and they're thinking about learning more about a career in servicing, that you would point out?
Yeah, I would say that, as you mentioned, the mortgage, it's one of the biggest investment, if not the biggest investment consumers will have. It's something critical to them. And, our employee base, they need to care through and through, regardless of what your role is. Um, every role in servicing is critical, and just as critical as the next. And if one area does not perform successfully, it breaks down throughout the process in servicing. And so I would say that folks that are thinking about a career in servicing, it's hands-on work, regardless of your role. You've got to do a great job. You're critical to the business and the success of the business. You got to have empathy. You got to care about the consumer. You got to be able to problem solve. You got to be patient and thoughtful in the way that you communicate to your peers, to the consumer. You got to be always in that mentality of how can I deliver the best experience for our consumers, whether that be scanning their docs, whether that be answering the questions on the telephone, whether that be making sure we pay the taxes and insurance timely, whether it be we report transactions accurately and timely, process cash accurately and timely. I can continue to go through all the different areas, but every single one of them is critical to delivering a really good experience to that consumer. So I ask my employees when I do these new hire breakfasts, think about every day that you come in, how you're going to deliver a good experience to a consumer, how you're going to make our consumers feel good that we are handling and managing their most important investment, maybe largest investment that they actually have. And so I think having that mentality, if you can have that mentality and you're hardworking and you're willing to roll up your sleeves and get to work, servicing can be a good spot for you.
Right. Yeah. So I sum it up to say, the care fiercely, details matter, rolling up the sleeves to get things happen, make things happen. And I guess with care fiercely kind of goes the whole empathy piece of relating to people.
It really does. And every role matters. Every position, every role in servicing matters.
100%. So, look, wrapping up, Shane, we've covered a lot of great stuff here. Anything that I didn't cover today that you want folks to know about, whether it's your team or leadership or how to grow?
Yeah, I would say it's surround yourself with good people. And it's okay to surround yourself with people that know more than you. I assure you, I've got leaders in my organization that know a hell of a lot more than I do. Joshua Bishop is one of the best operators I've ever had the chance to be around, and he can run circles around me from an operational standpoint. Shannon Clay, in the way that she leads her team in investor accounting and reporting, she's taught me more than I could have ever imagined, and almost every day she teaches me new stuff, and just a great leader. We've got a lot of them in our organization. Surround your people with leaders. Surround yourself with people that care as much, if not more, than you do. Don't be afraid to hire and surround yourself with people that know more than you. They're going to make you better at the end of the day. But I really feel good about our organization, David. I really do. I feel great about the future. I think growth is going to be on the horizon. I think technology is going to look very different as we go forward. Those things should be very exciting to everybody in our organization as we go forward.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Shane Ross, thank you very much for your time today on Newrez Voices. That's a wrap. We'll see you next time.
David, appreciate you.